Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies, bringing you not quite a painting tutorial. Obviously, Games Workshop has now shown off the beautiful new sculpt of the plastic avatar, and I decided it was the best chance I was going to get to clear off something from my pile of shame, which is an old resin Forgeworld Avatar kit that I rescued from a pile of basically discarded old models that got dropped into the store. So it's going to be kind of like an eBay rescue style video. I'm going to try and break apart the old model, get all the old glue, green stuff, all the horrible bits and pieces off it, get it reassembled, looking nice, sprayed up, and then a quick paint job. I will show you a little bit of the painting process for this miniature, but this will not be Mediocre Hobby Channel's painting avatar video. We will, of course, be painting up the new plastic avatar when it comes out in a few weeks. And then I will show you step by step how to do that in this video. So this is a bit more fun, a little bit more relaxed. So stick around to the end and see if we manage to pull off this rescue. Enjoy. Okay guys, as you can see, this poor avatar model is in pretty poor shape. I believe the person who had this before didn't know that it required super glue for assembly, so he tried over and over again with plastic glue, basically gumming up all of the connection points, and then after that failed, he used chunks of green stuff and used those to connect the parts, which resulted in an absolutely horrible build. For some reason, he also decided to paint just the legs. I have no idea why he decided to do that, but the legs have gummed up paint on them, so we'll have to deal with that in a moment. So the first step in trying to rescue this poor model is to break apart all of the components. So using some force, but trying to be as careful as possible, I pulled apart all of the components of this miniature. As you can see, all of the old glue and gummed up green stuff there in shot. So very carefully I used the clippers to remove any of the larger chunks of green stuff left on the miniature. I then went in with a sharp scalpel and carved away the extra glue and basically tidied it up as best I can. If you are patient and take your time, you can remove most of the old glue or anything like that from miniatures that people have done. And also trying to get the green stuff out of the connection ports that are already on the miniature. It will help make for an easier build session later on when I get all these parts cleaned up. So me pulling apart that arm. Look at the amount of glue in that join. It's absolutely insane. So being careful here, cutting towards myself, but controlling it. Got to get rid of all that gunk. Just look at the quantity of glue. I'd say they were so frustrated wondering why the parts were not sticking together in this beautiful model. It's no fault of them, they just obviously didn't have the experience or the knowledge to assemble Forgeworld miniatures. But their loss could be my gain depending on how well this eBay rescue turns out. I also now have to go, after the model is in its component parts once again, I have to go back in now and treat it like a brand new model, because obviously none of the flash or mold lines or anything like that were removed from the miniature in the first place. So I'm going in now and trying to remove all of those parts. It's quite finicky around his head. All of those little designs and stuff have mold line seams running through them, so got to try and get each and every one of those pieces. Like I said before, this is not going to be an avatar painting video. The channel will return to painting a full avatar when the beautiful new plastic one is on the shelves and I can get my hands on one, and I will show you step by step on how to paint that. This is more of a fun video showing you the hopeful rescue of this beautiful model. Now that the most of the flash is removed, I go with a toothbrush just to clean up any residual dust or flecks coming off from the removing of the mold lines from me, making sure the part is completely ready for assembly. It's a good trick to have a little toothbrush on hold. Here's another part. Obviously there's green stuff and glue in the joints like everything else, but there's a huge injection port part there that was just never removed. So clip that away and then tidy it up with a scalpel. As you can see, it's taking quite a bit of time to get rid of the green stuff and bits. This was also a part that the previous owner looks like they had broken the tip off the sword already themselves. And when they glued it back together, they just glued it back together all wonky. So the end of the sword looked bad. So I broke that apart again so that I could fix it correctly and give it a nice clean sheened blade. So these are all the normal parts that hadn't got paint and stuff on them. So I've cleaned up all the glue and the mold lines on those. And those parts are looking pretty fresh. Now we're on to the legs. The legs are obviously the part that's in the worst condition. So I'll be using some methylated spirits. Anyone who knows chemicals will know that methylated spirits as a chemical is actually too harsh to use on Forgeworld parts. You shouldn't use this to strip Forgeworld. I'm unfortunately short on chemicals at the moment, so I will do it quite quickly. I will not be leaving it in to soak or anything like that. It will just be a light dip. Then I will take the part out and I'll give it a scrub with a toothbrush. And basically keep repeating that process until the paint is removed. The part will not be staying in the methylated spirits for any extended period of time whatsoever. So that's about all I will leave it in for. I will take it out and I will start scrubbing. Every now and again I will dip the brush into the methylated spirits just to re-soak the brushes, or the bristles, apologies, and then start scrubbing. And as you can see, it already starts to get away the color. The yellow will come off first, and then the black primer, if they even use the primer, will come off second. And slowly but surely, this will be a slow process, like I said, because I don't have any softer chemicals that I can just, leave the part in overnight and come out and all the paint will just fall off. So I have to take it like this. Because the paint will still be quite hard on the miniature, I will have to go in with a sharp blade into all the cracks and recesses and scrape away any of the excess paint that pools up there. But like I said, patience is key. As you can see, the back and forward motion is actually starting to remove the paint. You can see the bare resin appearing on the back of the miniature's calf. And here's the bit that I was talking about, where I go with a sharp blade and just scrape away any of the gummed up paint left at any of the cracks and recesses. They went quite heavy with the paint on this. So as bad a condition as the model they left in, or condition they left the model in, I'm very grateful that they didn't do this paint job across all of the parts, because I don't know if I would have had the heart to try and repair that. It might have just ended up in the bin. So I continued that process until the legs were as clean as I could get them. And now we're on to the reconstruction phase. The bit that I'm the most excited about is just to see this model put back together properly, hopefully looking super cool. So here's the tip of that blade I was talking about. Now that those two parts are cleaned up, I'm going to very carefully reattach the tip of the sword and make sure that it's perfectly in line where it's meant to be. Checking the edge of it so it's lined up. And there we have it. You would never know the sword was broken. Beautiful. Now it's time to start super gluing some of those big parts. So there's the legs. That's as clean as I could get them. There's still a little paint left in the cracks, but it's the black primer, so that's super thin. So that won't impact the future paint job whatsoever. So time to start gluing. Now because I've removed all the old gunky glue and green stuff and parts like that, we are back down to bare resin. And bare resin is very porous, which means it holds super glue super well. So the parts glue together in no time whatsoever. So actually assembling this miniature only took maybe 2 or 3 minutes. I actually couldn't figure out originally the direction that the that shoulder part was supposed to go. I was trying to glue it to the torso first. Eventually I just gave up and I decided to glue it to the forearm and sword first, so that way I could better position it later on. Next it's time to glue the forearm on. Just a bit of glue. No pinning or anything like that is required with resin models, especially at this size. They hold quite strong. Once they're together, they are together. It's already starting to look like a miniature. Getting very excited. This part here was completely separate to the miniature. It was even in a different box of stuff. So I was actually quite lucky to find this part and realize what it was. And I took it home like a few days later from taking the main model home. It actually went into 2 separate places in my my room of storage bits. So when I went to do this project, get this model cleaned up and put back together, I had to be very careful, have a good old think about where I left that part, because I knew I had it. But thankfully I found it no problem, which means I could have one completed avatar. Otherwise I would have gotten to this point and maybe gotten slightly annoyed. Looking quite swish. As you can see, that is securely attached already. Time for the beautiful sword. The avatar from Forgeworld with the spear is still available on Forgeworld. I'm still debating whether I want to complete my avatar collection and get the spear when I do another one of these guys. Or maybe I'm just impatient for the plastic one, but hopefully we won't have to wait too long for that plastic one to be on the shelves in our local hobby stores, so we can get our greedy hands on it and get that added to the collection. I was having a little bit of trouble here with the connection point. I was still curious as to what exactly was the angle that this sword was supposed to be held at. Eventually I did manage to figure out the angle, or so I thought. Disaster strikes. This was the that gummed up shoulder, the worst culprit for extra glue. So it did take some time to clean off that parts. I in fact went away there off camera and smoothed out that connection point again with a scalpel, so it was even smoother going against his shoulder joint, so that when I went in and reconnected it, it held a little stronger. So here's me re-adding the glue and trying once again to attach those 2 points. I think I was much more confident in connection points this time around. And there we have it. Adding a touch more glue into the connection, and then leaving that for a few minutes to set properly. There's a lot of weight on the end of that sword, small connection point. Got to be super careful. Now it's time for his head. Unfortunately, you can see that the head does seem to have these like little earring things that have Aeldari runes hanging off them. The one that's on his stage left side was missing. I don't know where that piece has gone, so that will unfortunately stay missing. Even if it was on, I don't know how it would fit over this shoulder and pauldron part that he has here. Maybe he wasn't supposed to have one and I'm just guessing. Last but not least, his 80s rock haircut, his big plume. So that is it. That is the entire model reassembled, cleaned up, and ready for paint. Like I said, I am not going to be showing you an in-depth painting guide. We're going to go through a real speed round here of throwing paint across the miniature. So it was Blood Angel contrast all over after a Wraithbone primer. I also added Martian Iron Crush to the base. We then gave it a Flash Gits yellow dry brush all over the magma parts. We then jumped, it was actually an orange dry brush before that, white. Black Templar was used to block out the hair and the tabard. After that, we used Retributor Armor Gold for all of the gold trim that's all over this model, all his jewelry and all of the runes. Leadbelcher to block in all the silver. Ironbreaker after that, just to touch up and highlight all the parts. Talazar Blue for all of the gemstones. And then this is the finished result. So I'm super pleased that this is no longer in my pile of shame, looking ratty, forgotten, discarded. It is now something precious that I will take care of for a very, very long time. I really hope you guys enjoyed this fun video trying to rescue an old bash model. If you did, you like what I do here, and you want to support me and support the channel, check out all the links below. But here is the grand reveal.
Do, 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 do.